Hey, I hope you're doing great. I hope you found the rate update useful. Just wanted to take a couple minutes and go over some of the changes coming up in our industry. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about the TRID rules that were going to go into effect on August 1st, which have now been moved back to October 1st. So basically, it's to do with the TILA RESPA changes coming up, and again, those are going to go into effect on October 1st. So the TRID stands for TILA RESPA Integrated Disclosure Rule. It'll represent a pretty big change in our industry as far as the complete mortgage process. But the new rules are designed to create some transparency. And basically, the changes are aimed at helping the consumer better understand the mortgage process, but also promote compliance within the industry. For the last 30 years, federal law has required lenders to provide two different disclosure forms to those applying for a mortgage. The law also has generally required two different forms at or shortly before closing of the loan. The two different federal agencies developed these forms separately under two federal statutes. One is the Truth in Lending Act, and the other one's the RESPA Act. So the forms that we currently use are a lot of the information overlaps and can really be kind of confusing to consumers. The good faith estimate currently doesn't show you what your down payment amount's going to be. It really just shows you like the total cost of the loan, but doesn't take into account certain credits, things like that. And then what we usually do is include an itemization sheet, which really breaks down. It's kind of what the good faith estimate used to be. Just has an easier flow, shows you what the monthly payment is, what the down payment is, breaks out all the closing costs and also the total of the closing costs and prepaids. But basically what they're going to do is the new rule is going to replace the good faith estimate and truth in lending disclosure with a new, it's a 3-page disclosure, which is called the loan estimate. And I included a link to the new form just so you can kind of see a sample of it. But basically, this is what the new loan estimate will look like, and it'll basically be eliminating about 7 pages of disclosures right now and replacing it with the new 3-page. So it really contains all the information that the consumer needs to know, and it has a good flow to it as far as showing them what the monthly payment is, down payment, total cost, and that. And again, I included a link to the sample in the email as well. The HUD settlement statement and final truth in lending disclosure will be replaced by a 5-page closing disclosure. And this one's going to be kind of the biggest change in my opinion, just because there's going to be certain time frames that this has to be provided to the borrower before the loan can close. So again, a lot of the information has a good flow to it. A lot of the information looks exactly the same as the loan estimate, so the customers will be familiar with it at the end versus kind of just getting hit with a form that looks completely different than what they've seen with the initial application disclosure package. So again, I included a link to the new closing disclosure in the email as well. So the loan estimate disclosure, this form is designed to be helpful to consumers in understanding the key features, cost, and risk of the mortgage loan they're applying for. And then this must be provided to the consumer no later than 3 business days after they've submitted a loan application. This change to me isn't too big, just because right now we're already operating within that time frame. As soon as we have a completed loan application, we have to send out within 3 business days the application disclosure package, which contains the good faith estimate, truth in lending disclosure, and then I always include an itemization sheet. So as a business day is any day that the creditor is open to the public to conduct the majority of its business. OnQ's business days will be Monday through Friday and exclude holidays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Consummation of the loan will not be able to occur until 7 specific business days have passed after issuing the initial loan estimate, and then closing documents would not be able to be drawn until the 8th day. Consummation is when the consumer becomes contractually obligated on the loan. OnQ will be using the note date as the consummation date. So basically the consummation date is just going to kind of replace the closing date. So the closing disclosure, this one's kind of the biggest change in my opinion. The form's designed to help consumers in understanding all the costs of their mortgage Again, it must be provided to the consumer 3 specific days before signing the note. So we have to be able to show that the customers received a copy of the closing disclosure 3 days before they're allowed to sign the note. And basically, the majority of the time we deliver any information like that electronically. Then we have documentation that they've received it, and most of the time they'll electronically sign the information and send it back to us. So the forms that are the new forms that are going to be in place were basically designed to make it easier for consumers to locate key information such as interest rate, monthly payment, and the total cost of the loan. The forms also provide more information to help consumers decide whether they can afford the loan and to compare costs to different loan offers, including costs of the loans over time. So again, the date's going to be moved from August 1st to October 1st. And then this is basically showing who will be affected by the rule change. So the final rule applies to closed-end consumer mortgage loans that are secured by a 1 to 4 unit dwelling attached to real property. So basically any residential mortgage. The final rule doesn't apply to home equity lines of credit. Those are typically what's considered open-ended mortgages or lines. Reverse mortgages, mortgage loans secured by a mobile home or a dwelling not attached to real property. And then to creditors who write 5 or fewer mortgages a year also won't be subject to the new TRID rules. OnQ will be, under the new rules, basically any creditor, but OnQ will be preparing the closing document because of the right of action for inaccuracy. So basically, what we want to do is about 7 days prior to the scheduled closing, 7 or 8 days prior to, and this is where the relationship between the lender and escrow will really come into play. But basically, we'll be working with escrow at least 7 days prior to closing to kind of finalize all the figures, make sure nothing has changed with regard to any of the fees involved. And then at that point, we'll kind of finalize the figures for the closing disclosure. And then that's when we'd get ready to send that to the borrower. Again, that has to be delivered to the borrower 3 days prior to the closing date. And we have to have evidence that the customers received the closing disclosure. So again, most of the time we're delivering stuff electronically through our secure delivery system. So we make sure that we have evidence that they received that information. But if you get into a situation where somebody's going to mail out the closing disclosure, then basically what you're going to be held to is you can't assume that the customers received that within 3 days. So if you mail it out, you're going to have a 3-day waiting period there. And then after that 3 days, then you would assume that the customers received the closing disclosure, and then that 3-day waiting period will start from that date. So the days of getting loan documents to escrow on a Tuesday when you're looking to close on Wednesday are definitely going to be gone under the new rules. So you're going to be kind of looking at, compare it to what we have to deal with right now on an owner-occupied refinance transaction, where basically we draw the loan documents, they sign on Monday, and there's a 3-day waiting period in there before we can fund the loan. The difference is they won't be signing the documents. There will just be that 3-day period from when we send out the closing disclosure. We have that 3-day waiting period, then we can draw the loan documents, and then they can sign the note. So again, they just can't sign the note until 3 days after receiving that closing disclosure. But if you have any more questions on the changes coming up or want to go through it in any more detail, don't hesitate to give me a call, 425-698-2917. Thank you.